Hey, are you one of the millions who has difficulties when it comes to prepositions? Do you know which preposition or prepositions we use for time and place? If you're not sure, if you have any doubts, stick around because after the intro, that's exactly what I'm going to get into.
Yeah, baby, yeah!
Hey, how's it going? I'm Mr. Finn. For those of you who are new to my channel, let me introduce myself. I'm an American English teacher who's been living out here in Brazil for the last 11 years. I'm graduating in an English course, and for the last 10 years, I have been teaching English inside and outside the classroom. And today, I'm here to do my very best to make you better. And today, what I want to focus on are prepositions, and in particular, the prepositions that we use for time and place. But before I get into that, let's have a little trivia. Do you know the difference between these two commonly known phrasal verbs? To come back and to go back? If you're not sure, stick around because at the end of the video, I'll give you the answer. Now, let's get into these prepositions. The prepositions that we use for time and place are three of them. And what are they? They're at, on, and in. Now, the difference between these prepositions are pretty clear, but sometimes it can get confusing. So let's compare these three really quick and see if you can identify the difference. They arrived at 5 o'clock, they arrived on Friday, or they arrived in October, or in 1998. Can you tell the difference between these three uses? Well, let's get into this and break it down. Let's first talk about the prepositions we use with time, all right? Before I get into place, let's focus on time. The preposition most commonly used for expressions in time is going to be at. We use at for specific times, right? So my class is at 3 o'clock. Oh, I have to go at 1 o'clock. Okay, so when you're talking about a time, specifically an hour or a time specifically, you're going to say at different times of the year, at Christmas time, at New Year's. You get the idea? At the moment. What are you doing at the moment? At the same time, right? I like to eat popcorn and watch a movie at the same time. So you see, a lot of times when you're talking about time, you're going to use at. The British like to use at when it comes to the weekends. So at the weekends or at the weekend, what do you like to do at the weekends? Americans, on the other hand, are going to use on. Why? Because when you're talking about a specific day, we use on Monday, on Tuesday, right? On Tuesdays, I release a tongue twister every Tuesday. On Tuesday. On a specific date, right? On April 1st, on April 30th. Okay, you're going to use on. So we talked about at Christmas time, but if you're talking about Christmas Day, on Christmas Day, I'm going to go here. On Easter Sunday, I'm going to go there. You see? So at the time, you're going to use at, but on the day, you're going to use on. And like I said, with at, you're talking about specific times of the day, but if you want to talk about moments in the day, like morning, afternoon, and evening and night, you're going to use in. In the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, but at night. All right, why do we say at night? That I can't explain. It just, that's the way it is. In the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, but at night. Now remember, you have to really pay attention to the context because when you say in the morning, but if we're being specific on the day, it's going to be on Friday morning, right? On Saturday morning, right? Because we're talking about the specific day. In the week, what do you do in the week? What do you do in the month? See, in the year. On a specific date, right? On April 1st, but in April. See? So if it's just the month in general, from the beginning of the month to the end of the month, it's in, but on a specific day. Does that make sense? We're going to use these prepositions for these moments of time. But if we use certain words as expressions like every, next, last, we're not going to use any of these prepositions. So like I said, I release a tongue twister on Tuesdays. Every Tuesday, I release a tongue twister. So when I use every, I'm not going to use on. Did you see the tongue twister last Tuesday? Will you watch the tongue twister next Tuesday? You see, when I'm using every, last, next, there's no preposition involved, all right? And oftentimes, in spoken English, when you're talking about a particular day, you can oftentimes remove the preposition on. So for example, I'll see you on Friday, or see you Friday. I'll see you on Tuesday for the next tongue twister, or see you Tuesday. You see, so in the spoken language, it's okay to remove the on. It's not necessary because we get what's being said, all right? And if we want to talk about a duration of time, in a few hours, we'll be done here, okay? In a few weeks, this course is going to be finished, okay? In a few moments, I'm going to be moving on to place. See? So if we're going to be dealing with the duration of time, we're going to use in. Even for the future, like in 6 weeks, right? In 6 weeks' time, I'm going to be working on that project, all right? So in a duration of time in general, in a duration of time in the future, or if you want to talk about a duration of time in the past, okay, in 4 hours, I was able to get that project done. You see? So that's how it works for time. Pretty simple, right? Now, let's talk about place. When we're talking about place, if we're going to talk about kind of a closed area or space, we're going to use in. So you're in a room, in a building, in a box. You're in the garden, you're in a yard. I'm in nature, okay? I'm in the environment, okay? We're talking about like a closed space. You're in town, in the city. The Brits, right? British English will say you're in the city center. Americans will say you're downtown. No preposition, you're downtown. But the Brits will say like you're in the city center. Also, talking about bodies of water. Okay, you're in a pool, you're in a river, you're in the ocean. Makes sense? Because you're actually in the water itself. Also, if we want to talk about somebody or something, we could say that, you know, this person is in line, or the British will say they're in queue. You're in a row, you put the ducks in a row, you put the books in a row, the cars in a row. See? So in line, in queue, in a row. You say I have a nice desk in the office, right? There's a lot of people in the shop. There's some things in a picture, right? Look at all the clouds in the sky, you see? So it works like that. There's a lot of stars in space, in the universe, okay? Because you're looking at that area as like a, not necessarily a closed space, but it's a space by itself. It's an area by itself. So in the sky, there are a lot of birds in the sky. Get the point? You could also say, you know, someone's not feeling well, they're in bed. But being in bed is different from being on the bed, right? In bed, you're actually in the covers. And when you're on the bed, you're actually on top of everything. There's some books on the bed, there's some clothes on the bed. But, you know, most people, when they sleep in bed, in the covers, right? And talking about on is used for surfaces, right? So you have on the wall, on the ceiling, on the door, on a table, okay? There's a boat, there's a ship on the water, there's a submarine in the water. You see? So it's actually in the water, a submarine, but the boat is on the surface. It's on the water, right? Put the book on the table, it's on the surface. Make sense with on? And at, you're talking about general locations, right? So I'm at the beach, at the park, at the bus stop, at the door, at the roundabout, at a party, at a concert, all right? We're speaking in general. I'm at the shopping mall, I'm in the bookstore, all right? If you want to give directions, right? Go down the street, turn right at the corner, right? Turn right at the shop, on the corner. There's a lot of people in the shop, turn at the corner. Now, what's interesting talking about corner, if you're outside on the street, it's at the corner. But if you're in a room, there's a table in the corner, all right? There's a chair in the corner, right? Because now we're talking about a closed space, okay? Now, sometimes they're really close in their usage. So let's look at some examples and we can compare a few of these. So let's compare in and at. So there are a lot of people in the shop. It's very crowded, okay? Go down the street and turn at the shop. So the shop is there at the street, on the corner. So turn at the shop. You see? So I'm giving you the general location of the shop on the corner. I want you to turn where the shop is, so turn at the shop, but there are a lot of people in the shop. Very crowded, right? You'll say, hey, I'll meet you in the lobby of the hotel, or I'll meet you at the entrance of the hotel. What's the difference? In the lobby, in that closed space, at the entrance, general location. Now let's look at in and on. So I'll use a very basic example. There's water in the bottle, but there's a label on the bottle, right? It's on the surface of the bottle, whereas water is actually inside the bottle. Another big difference between in and on, let's talk about technology. Analog technology, books, magazines, newspapers, things like this, articles, it's in it. Okay, did you see the article? Did you see what I wrote in the article? The article is in this magazine. Get the picture that is in the book. So it's in it. It's actually inside the book. So when the technology is analog, it's inside. Did you see the article in the paper today? If it's digital, we're going to use on. So I'm recording this on a camera. I'm putting this on YouTube. On Instagram. If you want some good tips, check me out on Instagram, English with Mr. Finn, on a website, on TV, on a radio. You see, if you're going to use technology, it's on. Always going to be on. So in analog, on digital. All right? Or you can say on electronics, not necessarily digital, like a radio or whatever. On a radio, on electronics. All right? Let's look at a quick example between at and on. Hey, you hear that? There's someone at the door. Shall I see who it is? Or did you notice the sign on the door? It said keep out. So, someone at the door, general location. There's a sign on the door. Remember, it's on the surface of the door. So it's pretty simple if you break down and always look at the context. Context is key, all right? And to kind of wrap up this idea, let me give you a few other uses of these three prepositions that people can't get confused with, all right? So when I gave you before the example of like being in nature, you're gonna often use in. So someone's in the rain or in the sun. I try to record in the shade. You see, I'm in it. As far as on, someone is on the phone. Someone is or is going on strike. You are on or you're going on a diet. Okay. On the whole, you're speaking in general. You do something on purpose, right? It's intentional. I'm not going to work next month. I'm going to go on vacation, as the Americans would say. The Brits will say they're going to go on holiday, right? So you have this little difference in vocabulary, but same preposition, on vacation, on holiday. And at you'll use like at a specific age, like many places in America, you start driving at the age of 16. You vote at the age of 18. Technology is advancing quickly. Soon we'll travel at the speed of light. Water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. You see? So these are some other uses of these three prepositions. Right, so that's about it. The most important thing you have to understand or take from this is always focus on the context. If you look at the context of what you're saying or what is being said, you should be able to understand. What's more important is to always pay attention to that context, because the context will clarify that for you. All right? Wonderful. Now, what is the answer to Mr. Finn's trivia? Well, these two phrasal verbs are really common, right? Because most all phrasal verbs that have the preposition back have to do with return. I suggest you check out my posts on Instagram where I have a whole list of phrasal verbs dealing with this preposition back. Now, the difference between come back and go back, it's pretty simple. You have to pay attention to the context of who's saying it, because it all has to do with perspective. What does that mean? Okay, let's say I come home from the supermarket and my wife says, "My love, you forgot to buy milk." I'd be like, "Oh, great." So she says, "You have to go back to the supermarket." So I'm at home and I have to go back to the supermarket. That means I have to return. Let's say I go to the supermarket, my wife calls me and says, hey, you didn't forget the milk. It's here. So come back. So my wife is being at home and she's telling me to return to where she is, to come back, right? So that's the difference. Both mean return. Go back is to return to a place where you previously were. I have to go back. And come back is to return to a place where someone is referring to where they are. Come back home, come back here, okay? Oftentimes you're gonna use go back in time to a previous point in time. Let's go back a little bit. Let's go back in the story. You're not really gonna say come back. If someone stays where they are, they'll say, okay, go back, but then come back to where I am. Does that make sense? Both mean return. You just have to look at the perspective. All right? I hope I made it clear. If you have any questions, don't forget to leave your comments below. If you have a request of something you'd like me to do, leave that in the comment section. Make sure that you're subscribed to my channel. And if you do, press that notification bell where you're notified when I release a new video. Every Tuesday, I release a tongue twister. The tongue twisters I make are to have fun and practice your pronunciation, all right? Remember, learning a language is like anything else. The more you practice, the better you get. So let me tell you something. Make sure you get out there and you're practicing your English. I'm Mr. Finn, and I'll see you in the next video.
Yeah, baby, yeah!